What is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? It's your boy Goblin, and today we're coming in with a hoot and a holler, a true banger, if you will. Today we're going to be talking about the time that I bought some acid off the deep web. Hope you guys do enjoy this video. Drop a like if you do, and also, if you're new and you enjoy this video, don't forget to subscribe at the end. YouTube decided to yoink away like 150-something subs from me yesterday, just as I was about to hit 50K, so I'm a little upset about that, to say the least, all right? Just a tad bit irritated. So either way, without further ado, let's dive right into it. So this happened about 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, like 2.5 years ago by now. And my boy Ashton, who is a very common character in many of these stories, at this particular time, he was my connect for pretty much everything. He was my plug for psychedelics, amphetamines, pretty much anything but weed, I would buy straight from him and only from him every time. And I knew that he would always re-up off the deep web. I didn't know how he had nuts big enough to get as many packages in as he did, because this guy would get packages of large quantities of various drugs, and often too. Like usually he'd be getting like 1 or 2 shipments a week, and he'd flip it pretty quick. And it was a fairly substantial amount in these packages most of the time. And on this particular day, we were sitting in class. I remember this real well. We were always sitting together in the back of our math class, which was the last period of the day. And we were trying to plan out our evening. It was a nice Friday evening, if I remember correctly. I'm pretty sure it was. And we were trying to plan out our following evening. And I was like, yeah, I'm kind of down to trip tonight. He's like, yeah, I'm probably down. It sounds good to me. And we were just chatting a little bit, talking about acid, talking about pricing, shit like that. Typical druggy chatter, just some fucking bullshit being spewed in the back of the class, And we get on the topic of dealing, right? We're kind of talking a little bit, and he's telling me like, oh, I made this much last summer, just a little bit of a flex off, if you will. Sometimes you got to have a little bit of banter with the boys, just a little flex off with the lads, if you will. And he definitely had me beat in that category. He definitely had me beat in the flex off category. He sold a lot of fucking drugs. And he's telling me about like how much he made and all that. And I was like, dude, I should go in with you on some of these re-ups if you're making that kind of profit. And he's like, yeah, dude, I mean, if you want, you can just throw down on my next order. And I was like, fuck, that sounds like, why have I not been doing this? That sounds great. So I'm like, all right, yeah, we'll talk about it more later. So later finally rolls around, and by later I mean maybe an hour after this happened, and we're already out of school and sitting in my friend's car, and we're sitting in my friend who we're going to call Phyllis. She's a female. We're sitting in her car, and she's driving us back to my crib, and we're kind of chatting about it a little more, trying to figure out what we're going to do. And she sparks up a blunt. We always had our post-school blunt ready to go. Typically, I'd roll one in the morning and just keep it in my backpack with me and save it for when we got out. But this time around, she had it. So she sparks the blunt. We're hitting it. Ashton couldn't smoke at the time. He couldn't smoke for most of the time I knew him. He would only smoke like 2 days after his probation drug test, so I felt kind of bad because he had to sit there and watch us hit this blunt. But I'm pretty sure he was fucking K'd up already anyways. That guy always was. And we finally get back to my crib, and I'm like, all right, let's talk business, baby. So, of course, we talk some business, and he's telling me like, yeah, dude, if you want to get a sheet, or like even half a sheet, you only have to throw me like $120, right? And I'll get you half a sheet. If you want a full sheet, I can get you one for like $200. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, fuck, that's amazing. For those of you guys who maybe aren't familiar, a sheet is 100 hits of acid, right? Just straight up 100 hits. Typically in my area, one individual hit goes for about $10, right? One tab is going to be $10. So granted, you're probably not going to be making 10 a tab all the way through because you're going to be selling in bulk and things like that, or maybe just hooking people up every here and there. But you can expect to see, I'd say, about $700 to $800 off a tab if you trap it correctly, right? Like if you sell in small amounts and you maintain your price in this area, that's about what you could get. So for him to tell me that I only had to throw him $200 for a full sheet, that was music to my ears because I knew that I could triple and even quadruple my money. So I was like, of course. That sounds fucking brilliant. That sounds exceptional, and I'm down for that. So, of course, we hop in my car and whip over to the ATM. We grab some money, and this was very different for us because normally our first priority was getting fucked up. Like, before we'd even go to the ATM, we'd get fucked up first. But this time around, I was all about my money. I was like, nah, bro, let's get this out of the way, then we'll get fucked up. So we drive over to the ATM. I throw him my $200. He's like, all right, bro, I'm going to be placing my order on Monday. So when that happens, I'll hit you up and, you should have it next week. And I was like, all right, for sure. I had no problem fronting him the money. I trusted him to death. And he came through. He came through, let me tell you. But either way, a couple days go by. I'm not going to talk about what we did that night because that's a different video kind of thing. And, a couple days go by. Monday rolls around. I see him in class again. I'm like, yo, what's the word? He's like, I placed the order. Your shit's coming. It's all good. And I'm hype. I'm like, all right, that's a fucking bet, And he always, I never really knew. I didn't ask him too many questions about his orders on the deep web because I didn't want to seem like a fucking narc. But, I was always curious if he ordered off the same person every time or not because I had noticed that every time he would get his tabs in, they would come in different shipping methods. Sometimes they'd be in a letter and sometimes they'd be hidden in an entire package. And also on top of that, the designs were always really different. Sometimes there was no design and sometimes there was a design. So I was tempted to ask him because I really wanted the tabs he always got with the cool designs on them. He had this one sheet that had a really cool sun blotter art on there, and it was fucking sick. It looked really nice and really trippy as well. It was pretty cool. But I didn't bother asking because I was like, he already placed the order, so it's too fucking late anyways. Should have thought of that sooner. So he tells me that on Monday. I think nothing of it. 3 or 4 days roll by, right? It's Thursday at this point. He hits my line before school even starts. It's 6 a.m. I'd just woken up. And this motherfucker calls me. I pick up. I'm like, yo, what's good? I'm like, why is he calling at 6 a.m.? Is some shit going down? He's like, yo, shit's probably coming today. What you doing after school? I'm like, not shit. Why are you calling me this early? He's like, I just wanted to let you know. Shit, my bad. I was like, no, you good. So I'm like, shit, I'm not doing anything. Let's link up after school. And I don't really know why he asked me because we always hung out after school anyways. Literally every day after school, we would always chill. So either way, he's like, all right, bet, see you at school. So that goes by. School day goes by very slowly. I'll tell you right now, I have never been so antsy and excited in my whole life because prior to this point, I'd never actually personally owned this much acid, right? I'd seen more than this. I'd seen plenty more than this. I'd been around plenty more than this, but I'd never personally had this much acid all to myself. And in my head, I was just thinking there's two ways that this can go, right? A, I could either sell all of it and make a fucking killing, or B, I could sell half of it and then just trip balls. Just send myself into a fully intentional psychosis, I was thinking in my head, there's one of two ways this could go. One of them's good. One of them's still good, but kind of fucked. But either way, they're good. So it doesn't matter that much. And I ended up only taking maybe 10 of these tabs. I ended up actually kind of rationing myself pretty effectively, but I'll get to that. So school day goes by slow as fuck. This felt like a whole school week. And finally, we get out of school. Phyllis, who almost always drove us, or at least drove me to and from school. She would usually drive Ashton home, but not to school because he took the bus and he was just out of the way. But Phyllis lived close to me, so she'd always scoop me on the way to school and I wouldn't have to ride the bus so I could smoke. So either way, we're in her car, we're whipping back to my crib, and this is always the procedure, same thing happens, except this time it's a little different. We leave the school parking lot and we start going back to my house. And Ashton asks her if she can stop at a mailbox. And she's like, all right, fine. But it's not his mailbox, right? It's a different person's mailbox. And there's this girl who we're going to call Trisha, right? She lived in these apartments that were kind of over near where Ashton lived and near the school as well. And it turned out, I actually didn't know he did this, or I didn't, maybe he just did it for this drop, I don't really know why, but he got it shipped to her house. He got it shipped to her place because the mailboxes were outside and she gave him the key already, so he could just go grab it without even needing her. So, I guess good on him. If she's willing to take that risk, then fuck it. But either way, we pull up to this girl's apartment building. He hops out, goes over to the mailboxes, pops it open, and yanks out a letter. And I see him holding this letter, and I know immediately what is in it. 100%, I know instantly, oh fuck, this is it. And it's, excuse me, I just hiccuped and burped at the same time while I was trying to say, and it just went to shit. But either way, he pulls out this envelope and he's got it in his hand. And it's a pretty bulky envelope. Like, it doesn't look like it's stuffed full of stuff, and it doesn't really look that sus. But it was like it didn't look like a standard size, like, mailing envelope, if that makes sense. You know, I don't really know how else to put it. It looked a little fat. But either way, he grabs the envelope and hops in the car. And in this envelope, right, I'm going to be honest, I don't know how the fuck this made it through, like, whatever security systems they have in place for checking if any bad shit is in envelopes. But all it was the tabs folded in a piece of paper, and the piece of paper had like a poem written on it, and then the piece of paper is just stuffed in the envelope. All it was just these separate sheets stuffed in there, and he got a sheet for himself and a sheet for me, right? And I'm excited as fuck. He busts this open, and the blotter art on these was nothing, and I mean quite literally nothing. They were just pink blotter paper. That's all they were. Just plain pink, no art. So I was a little disappointed because I always look forward to the nice art. You know, I think it's just another thing I look for in my tabs, you know? Like, I'm mainly there for the dosage and the effects, but I'm also very, you know, I'm a connoisseur of blotter art, if you will. Like, I like it, you know? It will motivate me to pay more for it. So either way, that's beyond the point. He throws me my sheet, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm almost in disbelief, right? I had to grab a little bit of tinfoil. We always had tinfoil on us because we were some goddamn crackheads. So I had to grab a little bit of fucking tinfoil and just fold my sheet up in the tinfoil and put it back in my bag. And, you know, I'd never handled this much acid, so I didn't really know how to store it properly. So what I ended up doing was I just wrapped it in the tinfoil and put it in the freezer. I read online that you either keep it cold or you keep it room temperature, but you never let it get too hot, you know? Because, like, I knew how to handle my individual tabs and shit, but I didn't know if shit was different with this much. You know, I was trying to make sure that I didn't fuck this up or, like, accidentally weaken the dosage on them or something. Because LSD is a very sensitive chemical. You know, for those of you guys who don't know, touching a tab with your bare hands can make you trip if you hold it long enough, you know? So you have to be very careful when you're handling LSD. So I wanted to make sure that I was doing it all by the book. And, you know, after we grabbed this from the mailbox, we just cruised back to my house. And let me tell you, even though it was a school night, me and Ashton had a great trip on this night. I'm talking, we were tripping nutsack. I was excited. He was telling me, like, yeah, you know, Plug told me there's some double dose shit. I'm excited for it. And if he was excited, I was excited because this guy had done like 10 times the amount of psychs I'd done. So I knew that if this guy told me it was good, it's definitely some good shit. And it was. It was some phenomenal shit. But I'm not going to get into that because the video's getting a little long here. So either way, that's my story about getting some acid from the deep web. It all went well. Didn't get fucking arrested or anything. Went pretty smoothly. So hope you guys did enjoy this video. Drop a like if you did. Don't forget to sub if you're new. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.